Welcome to Crypto Flywheel, the podcast where we spin up strategies to turn your digital effort into unstoppable momentum. Now, let's get that flywheel turning. Quick crypto check-in today for January 9th. Bitcoin's holding strong around 90,000. Up a tiny bit today, but still testing the psychological 90,000. Sit lightly above 3,000 and XRP sitting around 210. And total market cap is hovering near 3.1 trillion with a slight dip in the last 24 hours. Markets are consolidating. No need to panic, guys. Just waiting for the next move. Speaking of next moves, today we got someone special who's lived it all. Former military service, did multiple roles across the globe, and travels that took him from conflict zones to every corner of the world. Professor Rex, take it away.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Doing good. Doing good yourself?
Good. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you on. I'm really excited to introduce to our listeners Professor Fillmore-Johnson. And you already heard Digital X giving us a little bit of a background for him. So we're just going to, first of all, I also wanted to let Professor Fillmore know thank you for your service to our country. And yeah, I'm excited to hear what your experiences are. And here we go. Let's go. Let's get that flywheel turning there, Digital X.
Professor Fillmore, tell us a little bit, introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit about you.
All right. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for having me on today.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit about myself. As Digital X previously stated, I was a part of the unit on ground that captured Saddam Hussein back in 03 and 04 in Tikrit, Iraq. As you may expect, that was a worthwhile, great experience to have experienced at an early age in life that opened my eyes to far more than I had experienced thus far, being an inner city youth. As well, I spent about 15 years in corporate America. As you stated, I traveled the world expansively. I lived in the Middle East for years of my life, traveled amongst India, the Philippines, Colombia, all in the endeavor to understand the world more from a lot of vantage points, whether philosophical, religious, culturally, just understanding the world as a whole. So I guess that's where it kind of led me to meeting you guys in the sauna. Well, it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
What roles did you play in the military?
Well, I worked on nuclear, biological, chemical weapons in the Army.
How was it?
It was fun, to be honest with you. I enjoyed my time in the military, my time at war. For me, it was learning America. You know, I don't know if y'all remember back in the 90s, they had the commercials. An army of one, and they really spoke to a different culture of men than was presently constituted today. So for me, I technically signed up for the military September the 7th, 2001. As we all know, 4 days later, 9/11 occurred.
Yeah.
So I technically had the opportunity to not still go in the military, because technically when you go into the military, the first enlistment doesn't count. So watching 9/11, I say that became the catalyst that springboarded me into the world, because the first time I made a decision for one that adult that would forever affect my future. But like you said, leading to war, I had the opportunity to the majority of my chain of command was African American males.
Okay.
That taught me a lot. I guess you could say they took me under their wings. I was I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So during that time, Fort Worth was a very violent city. So I had experienced a lot, seen a lot thus far that I guess you could say most inner city youth could attest to. So joining the military helped me to expand my horizons, to see life beyond the four corners of Fort Worth, so to speak, where the primary races are Caucasian, African American, and Hispanic. You join the military, and now you have people from all walks of life, and that's the beauty in America.
So what region did you find the most appealing through all your travels and being stationed overseas?
Well, my military time.
Yeah, during your military time, or even through, just by
my travels. To
Yeah.
be honest with you, I enjoyed the Middle East. I lived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Uh-huh.
There was a man by the name of Dr. Abdul Karim. This is during my stint in corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
Because of laws and bylaws, because of my military experience, my company, I worked in the medical field. And as we all know, the Middle East is a third world country that doesn't have the medical practices that we have here. So I went out to train them. And I mean, just the same as I was explaining earlier, it forever changed my vantage point on the world. Because after living abroad, now you get the opportunity to look back at America and really see America how the world sees it, rather than being American and just know the world sees you a certain type of way.
Oh, okay.
So
Understood.
living, like I say, while I was there, I was training. I don't know how people know how things work in the Middle East, but in the Middle East, you can't really own a business. You can own 50% of a business, and the way they keep the land Muslim is by ensuring that half of the land is always, or a company is owned by someone from the Middle East.
Okay.
But
So
they-
basically, I'm assuming it's like a sheikh that you have to get some sort of permission from in order to do business there, right?
Right. It's totally different than America.
Okay.
As well, they bring over other workers from third world countries. I didn't train workers from the Middle East. I trained workers from the Philippines, from Colombia, from India, from third world countries, and that's where the FIBA soccer tournament, World Cup, was, I believe, in Qatar a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And they were speaking about human rights. I actually living in the Middle East because I'm American. I'm protected by America. But because those men were from third world countries, that their countries couldn't protect them the way, I guess you could say, America would be protected internationally, they were treated far harshly than I ever was. And knowing the stories of the African Americans here in America today, slavery and whatnot, that's essentially how they were treated. They put 20 men in a room. They didn't even have a bathroom. They had a hose that hung into the bathroom and a hole in the floor. They gave me an entire villa to myself, and it was like, why y'all treating these men this way? And it was more or less because they could. They took their visas, treated them harshly. I ended up, let's just say, I helped them with that situation. But
That's interesting. So, Professor Fillmore, I have a question for you. If I could get in here real quick. I just wanted to get your perspective of the different aspects of the finance industry, like how you managed money, what you saw in your travels across the world. The difference between America and how people manage money here and what you were exposed to, and how you saw people who you worked with or you trained, how they dealt
I
with
can
money.
speak to that. And once again, that's another one of the experience that forever changed me, because that's when I really learned that Americans are gluttons. And that's from a man that lived in America, lived overseas, and had the opportunity to experience what the rest of the world in America. And the best way I could antiquate it is explaining being at the top of the mountain. When you're born in America, there's 342 million Americans currently, 8 billion people in the world. So technically, there's about a 2 to 3% chance that you're going to be born American and be technically affluent opposed to the rest of the world. I was amazed because I will forever have the greatest reverence for the men that I worked with. I've never been around a more salt of the earth, humble man in my life. You're talking about men that they would spend 11 months out the year making, to give you all an idea of the difference in pay. I trained about 14 men. I made more within a month than all of those men combined. I believe at the time they were making $700 a month. And they would send all that money back home to take care of family, because third world countries don't always have the financial means, either because of a lack of a gross domestic product or resources, you know. But
do you think that it's changed a little bit though from back then when you were there and to what it is today, possibly?
Yes, it definitely has. Because when I went, my passport was signed by King Solomon. King Solomon passed away and his sons took over. While I was there, we're used to females going to school with females here. In the Middle East, during that time, the female, when I was there, that was the first year that they were allowed to go to school. So It was pink buses that would be on the corner picking the females up, and being American is like, wow. And then I believe at that time they were building 113 skyscrapers because the writing was on the wall. Kind of what we're seeing right now, that the oil wasn't going to be able to subsidize the country for forever. So now, I don't know if you watch wrestling, but now you watch Riyadh season or boxing, where Turkey has opened the doors to the Western world period, to come and be a part of the Middle East. It wasn't like that before. It was almost like North Korea is right now, you know, secluded from the world. So
yeah, that's putting it
having
in
the
perspective.
Definitely. Like I say, you know, having these experiences and now being able, not, you know, how do you say, walk a day in a man's shoes. Like, I spent a lifetime pondering the fables of adages such as know your history will be doomed to repeat it, or like I just stated, walking a day in a man's shoes. When you actually do them, it's one thing to say them or think about it. You know, if a tree falls in the woods, nobody's around the head, does it make a sound? You're going to run into a million questions, answers to that. But when you go and be Christopher Columbus yourself, you enjoy the gullible travels and put yourself into perspective, you know, where now you can see it, you can taste it, you can feel it, you can come up with your own conclusions rather than, let's say, you read it in a book or a newspaper. So for me, it made the world more 3D rather than fantasizing or thinking about it. Now I have seen it, and to be honest with you, I learned that even here in America, we being lied to. Even at war, I learned here in America, we being lied to. And a lot of Americans won't believe it, but I sat at war and watched the government tell the world what happened to Pat Tillman. But initially, we already knew that was a lie. Yeah. Beforehand, we all thought when you watch the news, you're getting the truth. Now, you know, with social media, like I say, there's a difference in the news from the 90s to the post-social media era, the World Wide Web, as it was called when it first was given to the public back in the 90s, you know? So a lot of people don't realize.
I'd like to jump in there and actually say that it's not that big of a difference, because they were always telling us what they wanted us to know, right? Not what the actual news was. It's just that the only difference was that we didn't have the social media waves to see what's going on from people, regular people, everyday people posting what's happening, right? That's the only difference right now. It's still the mass media, mainstream media is still sharing or shilling or narrative based or propaganda based, gaslighting, whatever you want to call it, right? So that's what they're still doing. I feel like, even it's
you could be correct. It all depends on how you look at it. For me, I got my grandmother tattooed on my chest, right? So for me, when I learned that there was a world beyond my grandmother's house, it was because I was reading the newspaper with her in the morning, or watching the 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock news. And even the way it was presented then, like if you look at it now, it's more torture. Back when I was coming up in the 80s and 90s as an adolescent, a teen, it was much more Caucasian, shall we say. When it went to commercial, it was an orchestra. Now they go to commercials listening to Jay-Z. Typically, it was going to be some Caucasian woman that was in her elder years with curly, white-looking hair that presented herself a certain way. Now it's a woman with a nice body with something tight on that keep on turning around, and you can see that she has a nice body. So the concept of news and how it's being presented to the psyche of the American people changed, but that's big business. Like
So,
I say,
Professor Fillmore,
Yes.
let me
Yes,
ask you this. What changes do you think can be made to better serve the working class society now versus what from previously?
To be honest with you, something remains the same for all things. I look at this world, and this world based off of dualities. No matter what, to be honest with you, I started to think this way being in the Middle East fighting the war. I want to find one thing on this planet that stood mono by itself, and I can never find it. Everything has a contrast. The sun has the moon, positive has negative, man has woman, white has black. In the Middle East, if you want to look at the terms of race, they fight the Sunni versus the Sweet. It's a dynamic of this planet that is inherent, that has to occur. You know, the sun has the moon. That's the balance. Even the sun even spins on the positive and negative axis. So it's not so much of who's right or who's wrong, it's understanding. It's just like America, it's just like Pangea, the beginning. This planet used to have one landmass, Pangea. But then over billions of years, tectonic plates and how the world works, now it's all divided, just like you find in human beings. I think, and this is just me looking in depth in the way I analyze it. But when I looked at it, I said, that's pretty much what happened to the world. We started as one, and then we find a way to divide ourselves. Everybody want to be right, but I theorize, how can you truly be correct if we haven't even studied? We've only studied 10% of this planet. We only use 10% of our minds. It's just like any astrophysicist would say. There are people that think expansively, but now we steady ask the question, who's right, who's wrong, when the only thing I've been able to ascertain from studying history is the only winner of who's right is the person that wins the war.
So, Professor Fillmore, just as you are saying, are you insinuating that you said that from Pangea, we've only explored 10% of this land?
Yeah, you got to remember.
Can you expound a little bit on that?
Most of the land is underwater. The planet is 3/4 water. We just now finding out that light is able to reach the bottom of the abyss. But when you look at it in terms of space as well, it's the same thing Stephen Hawking said about his black holes becoming great holes. Everything, people forget we are still learning. When you're looking back on antiquity, you're talking about the infancy of man being able to tell a story for future generations to remember. At that point it was on stone. Now we're talking thousands of years later, and it's in the cloud. The way we leave information to the world to remember. That is the evolution of the human mind. But in terms of what we're able to accomplish nowadays, I mean, we've only explored 10% of the planet. But that's speaking in terms of, we got to know what's at the bottom of the oceans. We got to know what's going into the magma, the core, everything. That's truly understanding, not just the facade of. And at that point, you still got to go into the universe, where, like I say, our universe, within the Milky Way has only been here for 8 billion years, but that's only encapsulating light. That's how they're able to send pictures of planets from hundreds of trillions of light years away. Because the concept of knowledge is based off of light. But when they teach now, right? To teach now is only to teach how to be controlled. I figured that out because when it first dawned on me, my kids, because of my military service and my travels, they live in far more states. I think I counted 7 states that my kids have lived in. I spent my entire first 18 years of my life in Fort Worth. But for my kids, when we was in North Carolina, in history, they taught North Carolina's history. But for somebody in Texas, it was like, well, that's weird. I know Texas history. They give a brief synopsis of what happened around the major pinpoints in America. Then when you go to that actual city, you will learn, and I started to pick up on, well, they got to sell something to the people here. And another anecdote, I'm a preacher son. So I learned to look at society from a different vantage point simply by being a preacher son. But going back to living on the East Coast, when you first start to learn that if you live in North Carolina, the same as around here. If you go to a Walmart, They sell the local sports teams there, and they sell the local high school teams there, which makes sense, right? So that becomes like we can travel how that affects a market. But no matter where I went, right, I could always, one thing I always wanted to do was have a foundational piece. That way, no matter where I went, I could find some type of common ground with whoever was there. That's why I studied religion. No matter where I went in the world, if you know a person's religion, to me, that's showing respect and reverence to them, because you took the time to understand the foundational piece of every society. When you start looking at civility and how mankind was created, right?
Yeah. So,
in order to control a lot of... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can finish that thought, please. In order to control, go ahead.
Well, in order to control a lot of people, typically it was always done with religions. From antiquity, Babylonian, Mesopotamian time, Roman culture, even to the Eastern world, they used some type of deity or belief which gave a common denominator of sorts for the people to believe in.
Okay, so I wanted to change it up a little bit here. Professor Fillmore, I wanted to ask a little bit about what our podcast is primarily based off as cryptocurrencies and digital assets and finance, right? So from your experience, do you have any exposure to any of the above that I just mentioned? Any type of cryptocurrencies, any digital assets? What's your take on finance in general? What's going on in the markets today as it relates to commodities, the silver squeeze, anything that you wanted to add some insight into based off of your experiences?
Man, that's such a deep dive. I guess the best way, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. So I learned the stock market many moons ago. I really didn't get a strong interest into it until possibly my mid-30s. But as for studying cryptocurrency, digital currency, I studied out NFTs. I studied it all. To be honest with you, I didn't like the instability of it initially because it reminded me of offshore banks, where the drug dealers used to hide their money when the cocaine boom was big in the 80s. So when I was looking at crypto, it reminded me more of a better way to do a Ponzi scheme or to hide money, which, as it turns out, like I said, if you look at Russia and the Kremlin, they had invested heavily into the crypto market. For me, I was a lot more suspicious. You got to remember, I'm a military man. So if it's not something like America's doing right now, flexing their financial will and power and their military might, if it's not controlled by America, then especially in today's world, with Russia being the spy hackers they are, or China the same, and the state of the world today, I wanted to look a lot closer into it because, what's the word? Quantitative ease. When you're looking at the stock market now, as President stated, you've never seen a stock market like this ever in history. And I studied the stock market from when roses was one of the most traded commodities and valuable commodities in the world. So now what we're looking at today from the American side of things, we have been, the best way to explain it, I studied Rome. I look at America as Rome 2.0. The Eastern world, their dynasties and their culture of life has been the same way for the last tens of thousands of years. America and Russia pretty much run the Western Hemisphere, and the Eastern world has been what it is until presently now. And I think that's a lot of what we're looking at now with what's going on in present day. Looking at the stock market from 2008, after the financial issues America ran into, I looked at it more from the standpoint of why are we making the decisions that we making, because they were correlating exactly to what Rome did and how Rome failed. So when I looked at it in pieces. What caused Rome to fail? Like right now, Trump just pretty much went to war with Venezuela, even though it took all of 2.5 hours, which is immaculate because I thought Colin Powell's Operation Show of Force would be the most, Operation Overwhelming Show of Force would be the most wow, thing that I've heard about a military force going in and taking over anything. But from what America needed done in terms of war and everything else, war has been on the rise, and for forever from my vantage point, because America was built off of natural resources and what we call old school money. But this is the first time in history where you got technological advances that are spearheading the new world. So never before, the world as we know it presently has been bought and paid for a million times over. Everybody knows the Dubai family owns 75 to 80% of the world's diamonds. They put it into the market as they see fit, the same as America and Rockefeller and the Rothschilds and Vanderbilt and Carnegie, and how they, the steals, from J.P. Morgan and electricity and Tesla and Einstein. Like I say, know your history or you'll be doomed to repeat it. But where we are now, to me, in terms of the market and everything that we have saw, well, we know we should have been in a depression long ago. But when America is putting influation of money into the system, especially after COVID, but even before then, we was already in a state of flux before COVID. But then so many intricate things have occurred since then that it really is hard to keep up with how the market is going to grow, because you've never seen this amount of people in the market, period. Why? Social media. Beforehand, you had to sit next to a ticker all day, like they did on trading places with Eddie Murphy back in the 80s, the whole movie, where they talked about Wall Street, the stock market. Now you can do it on your phone and make instantaneous trades. You know,
that's when they had people in Wall Street working.
Thank you. You know, but now we are such a creative stage of the game. We got NFTs or arts, or where culture is now being something that's traded. You know, I would have never thought that shoes would become the market that it did. And I was an old school shoe head from the 80s and 90s, you got shoes selling for millions of dollars. But now, if you notice, the bubble has burst.
Yeah,
so the internet caused all these bubbles that keep creating and they keep bursting. So you getting the highs and lows in a way you've never seen before to track in history to say, how is this going to turn out? That's the problem the economists are having.
Yeah, nothing goes up forever, right? There's always something that's going to bring it down. There's always going to be a correction.
Yeah,
exactly.
So,
so
Professor Fillmore, and Digital X, what I wanted to do was basically the point of us bringing in Professor Fillmore. It was to actually get some insight into what everyday listeners, like our listeners specifically, what their vantage point, what their perspective on their life experiences as it relates to finance was, and not only just finance but everyday. So what we heard what Professor Fillmore had to say, and I just wanted to say that there's still the like everyday people should be, he reached out to, commented comments on us, we talked, and then we wanted to bring him on just to give perspective for our listeners. So Digital X, did you have anything else to add with regards to Professor Fillmore?
Oh, no, I really appreciate Professor Fillmore for taking his time out and wanting to join our podcast, introduce himself, and educate and our audience on his life experience and his thoughts. And we'd like to have you back again to discuss more things. I know we talk about other things as well. So, well, I'm happy to have you stop by and, spend time with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir. Hey, I definitely I appreciate the open forum and the opportunity, fellas. Like I say, this was kind of my hope in coming into the sauna and being so forthright and speaking to everybody that, like I say, I don't see no point in having a room full of individuals from different cultures and they don't talk to get to know one another or walk a day in a man's shoes,
Yeah. Well, Professor Fillmore, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Our listeners will appreciate it as well as, and we look forward to possibly having you down the line in future episodes. But if nothing else more, there's a Alexa.
Appreciate the opportunity, fellas.
Yes, well, Professor Fillmore, take it easy. Thank you again. With that, the Crypto Flywheel signing off. Thank you.